Take me out to California.
Hi everyone, so in this video I just thought I would give you a bit of an update as to what is happening in my world. And for those of you that followed my journey since my husband's death roughly 18 months ago, I thought I'd just give you a bit of an update on that because I haven't really spoken about this for a bit. This was intentional because so for those of you who don't know this or are new to the channel, 18 months ago my husband died of brain cancer, my husband Ross, and I had talked about on this channel when Ross had brain cancer, when he was diagnosed. I talked a little bit about our journey, and when I was in the hospice with Ross in his last month of his life, I spoke openly on camera about what was going on, and you can find that. I will link this on here as well if you want to go and watch some of those. So July 2017 was when my husband died, and I think for us, I spoke about this at Christmas, but for us it has felt like it's been a little tougher in some ways more recently. I think over the last sort of the beginning of this year, maybe the end of last year, and I think probably that's largely because it's proper reality of him not being here, and just that loss of going, man, like really he's not here, like he's not. I think you can, in that initial year, you can ride it out by momentum and adrenaline and people being around and aware of it. And I guess as time goes by, less people are aware of it, and I've had to tell more people than I did at the beginning. At the beginning, certainly here in the UK, it was in the press, it was locally where I live, it was in the press, pretty much everybody around me knew. Whereas that dies off a little bit now, and so yeah, there'll still be people that, you know, will generally know, but I guess if you just met me, you wouldn't anticipate that I was a widow at 34, and you know, you would assume that my daughters knew that had their dad in their lives. So it's kind of that new stage of stuff. For me personally, in terms of grief, again, you know, I've spoken about this. There's all this judgment when it comes to how you deal with grief and whether you openly grieve, whether you know, what does grief even look like? You know, it's supposed to look like somebody, you know, a widow with the black veil and all that stuff. And it's just not the reality of it. And it's actually, especially the people that I've spoken to, it's just not the truth of it. And I think that's why it's important that I talk about it, because it just lets people off the hook, that they just don't have to behave a certain way. Because even when you're grieving and sad and you've lost somebody and you want them back, you still have to live, you still have to find life and enjoyment, and you have to try and find ways to move forward, especially as a mum as well. Although I do often get annoyed when people say, you know, that's why you've got through, and I'm like, get real, like it's hard out with the kids, like it doesn't make it easier. And I know that I would have moved forward regardless, because that's my personality, that's how I am, resilient. But you know, that doesn't mean that I don't have lots of moments throughout the week where I just have this like, I think it's normally like now, this stage on, it's things that maybe I've forgotten about, and I'll have something that happens that reminds me of a joke. Often it's a joke, like a bit of a skit or a bit of a joke that we've had together, and I'm like, oh, why don't I say that joke again? And that was something that was part of my life. And it's those tiny little things like that where you're like, that's rubbish, you know. And I've said before, when I see Ross's handwriting, or just things that I notice that I've sort of held on to, where I'm like, yeah, just, you know, do I still need to hold on to that, or do I need to, even things like, do I need to do that in this way, or am I doing it in that way because we as a couple did it in that way? And you know, it's still early doors for that. There are still certain things that I'm doing in that way because it was just set up that way. Even things like bank accounts and stuff like that, where I'm like, oh, that probably doesn't need to happen that way now because that was a joint account and now it's not, and even stuff like that. But overall, as it has been from the beginning, I am not sat sobbing every night. It's just not how it manifests for me, grief. You know, I'm a very logical and straight person, and so was Ross. So I feel gutted that Ross isn't here. Of course I do, because I love Ross and he was such a big presence. But I also understand that it was no one's fault. It was a thing that happened. You know, Ross understood that. He didn't feel sorry for himself. I don't feel sorry for myself. It's properly rubbish, but it's nobody's fault. There's no blame to be had in this. And so I just want to move forward in my life and to keep creating things for my girls, keep allowing them to talk about their dad. I mean, there is no hidden stuff in this house. We talk about Ross all the time, constantly, all the time. And we try to, you know, include his voice in things. So I will, throughout the day, I will often say, oh, your dad would have said, or dad used to like this, or that's like a common thread throughout the day. So I can't imagine that would stop at all, because I just think it's an important thing. And I'm sure they'll get to a stage where I don't know what he would think about something, but at this stage we're not there, because I do know. And me and Ross were together so much in the I guess in the grand scheme of things, the short time that we were together, in the 9-10 years that we were together, that we talked so much, we were together all the time, and we had big deep conversations about everything, that I can still quite confidently know what he would think about things. Sometimes that's annoying, because sometimes I know I'm doing things that he wouldn't want me to do, and so it's like, that's hard, isn't it, where you gotta go, no, unfortunately you're not here, and so I have to make decisions based on the reality of right now. I guess that's a hard thing for people when somebody's died, is that kind of feeling that you're breaking their rules. That's new. I mean, I don't mind that, because I would have told him to get lost as well, so, and he would have took it, and he'd have argued back. But that's not as big a bigger thing for me. But yeah, I mean, I guess you lot, I get messages off you, and I know you worry, and you're lovely people, and so I guess a lot of people will see me talk on camera, or they see me at events, and I maybe think I'm faking it, but I think what you see is what you get. I mean, I'm not one of those people really that will massively, I have, but I don't share every moment of my life. And actually that's been a really important lesson for me, that I've really tried to check what I'm sharing online, because at certain times it's been really helpful, but actually sometimes you need to move forward and stop talking about things. And for me, the stage of always talking about grief and the loss side of things, it's not as beneficial for me in the cathartic way it was in the hospice. Now it just isn't. It doesn't make me feel sad talking about it. It's just, I've always got to look now, is it helping someone else? Is it helping me or my family? If it's not, then do I need to talk about it? Probably not. So I am talking about it today, and to update you. And I do talk about grief a little, and that kind of stuff a little, because I actually know from the messages that you send me that it does help a lot of you guys who are going through this. So that's important to me. But yeah, if you are going through this yourself, and you're watching this because you're about to lose someone, or you have lost somebody recently, or not recently, even if it's down the line, then I just want to tell you, my advice is to move forward, is to keep walking, even if it's tiny steps. It doesn't mean that you're walking away from that person. It just means that you're living your life. And I actually think that's a way to honor somebody. I mean, I can't imagine that if that person loved you, that they would want you to have a rubbish life where you spent the rest of it mourning their loss. That doesn't mean not remembering them. That doesn't mean not talking about them. That doesn't mean not acknowledging their impact on your life. It just means you're here, and you need to live and enjoy yourself and have experiences. And yeah, it's rubbish that not part of it, proper rubbish, but they're not. So then reality has to kick in. But I am sending you a ton of love, because this journey's messy, and some days will be easy and some days won't, and you might respond in ways you didn't expect yourself to respond in. And I've heard all kinds of stories from other people going through things, and they laugh at their craziness in amongst all of their loss. But so what? You deal with it how you deal with it, and you get through it how you get through it. But just focus on taking steps forward and allowing yourself to live. And yeah, that's it. That's my thoughts on the subject. But for those of you who care about me and have watched this channel largely because of Ross dying and seeing what was going on, then you don't need to worry about me. In fact, I did actually say this to people, but I went to see a counsellor. Even though I do all self-development myself, I kind of wanted to see an outside person's perspective. And I did some sessions, and I basically just, yeah, I didn't do anything for me because I'm already doing that stuff, and I thought it might help a little bit. And then and I was really only doing it because I felt good. And then I was thinking, I was second guessing myself because people were like getting in my head like, but are you really good? Are you gonna have a breakdown? And I was like, you don't think I am gonna? I feel like I'm dealing with stuff appropriately, crying where I need to. I'm not crying when I don't want to. But because people were in my head, I thought, oh, well, just go and see a counsellor, see if I'm just like, am I mental? Like, am I losing my head? Like, I feel all right. And yeah, the counsellor just went, you don't need to come and see me. You need to stop listening to other people's opinions about how you should be dealing with it. And so that was, yeah, that was fun and refreshing. So I just, yeah, I'm going to listen to myself from now on, and trust my own gut. And my own gut tells me I'm dealing with it appropriately. And as I've said from the beginning, if that changes, then it changes, so what? But right now I feel good. The kids are, you know, the kids are having tough times and not tough times, but they're having more good than bad. And I think that's all that we can expect of them, those tiny little humans. But they're nice people, and yeah, we're doing good. And that's it. I just thought I'd share that with you because I know you ask, and I don't always share stuff like this anymore. But yeah, we're good. I'm good. Don't worry about us. Peace.
Take me out